So welcome everybody, this is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly community calls with Microsoft presenters happening every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and we always have 2 or 3 demos in this call, typically with certain exceptions. Every now and then might happen that we need to cancel, who knows, one demo presenter, but this time we have 3 different demos coming up for today. Now, this call is the one which is for Microsoft presenters, which basically means that these are the people who actually created the functionality or were responsible of creating that or speccing that or helping the functionalities to really get to be implemented. So these are PMs and product managers and engineers and cloud advocates and so on who are presenting in this call from Microsoft side. Then we have other calls which are for community presenters like MVPs and community presenters showing how they're using Microsoft tools. So we have a lot of options for the calls as well. Now, today we start with a recapping of the latest updates and news from Microsoft and Power Platform, latest news on Microsoft blog. We'll recap some of the assets. We always do that, but that's highly intentional because we want to make sure that also the new people who are always joining on a call, every single week we have new people in this call, are always also up to date on all of the different assets to get started. So we really want to make sure that we are inclusive for all the people, not all the people from an age perspective, but from an experience perspective, and then the people who are new within the community as well. Now, today we have 3 demos, as mentioned already in the intro. We'll start that roughly quarter past as we move along within the plan. Carter will start by doing a latest features in Teams AI Library. He's been doing a series on Teams AI Library and what does it mean and how to get started. On that one, John Miller is following up on his series around Microsoft Teams Toolkit, and in this time we're going to talk about the introduction to CI/CD with Microsoft Teams App CLI. A lot of the abbreviations. CI means continuous integration, CD means continuous deployment, CLI means command line interface. So just to open up those abbreviations in the title. And then I will do a final demo, which is building your first declarative agent for Microsoft 365 Copilot. Super basic stuff from that one, but we really want to kind of show how to get started and really the mental mindset on what are these agents, what they are, how they're different, why would I create an agent versus just using Microsoft 365 Copilot, and we're going to talk about that one in the last demo. Now, as we start moving into the Microsoft 365 for Power Platform areas, we do have a lot of assets to get started on all of these areas. We do have our YouTube channel where we put all of our community call recordings and demos. We do publish one demo, and at least one video on that channel every single business day. So that's at least 5 videos in a week. But technically, we've been publishing roughly 12 to 14 videos every single week. So there's a lot of new content on the channel. You want to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the things which are getting published. We do have our LinkedIn page and group for discussions and updates. Easiest way to follow up on what's happening within the ecosystem. A lot of open source assets are available, but as finding the relevant sample from GitHub might be a bit difficult. We also have this really cool sample galleries, which makes it super easy to find the relevant sample for you. So if you're looking for Power Apps demo, Power Automate demo, SharePoint Framework demo, Teams AI SDK demo, you can just go to the centralized sample gallery portal and search and filter based on the product filters and find the relevant sample for you. A lot of URLs to remember? Well, not really. There's only one URL, which is AKMS Community Home, from where you'll find all of these things. Now, we do have quite a few community calls, like we are kind of touched that a bit already. This is the 8 a.m. Tuesday call, Microsoft presenters. On top of that, we do have 2 different monthly series. That is the Power Platform monthly community call with community presenters, and then Office Add-ins community call with Microsoft presenters. And then we have a 7 a.m. Thursday series, which is either the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community demos or Vivo Connection SharePoint Framework with community demos. So that's happening every single Thursday at 7 a.m. on Tuesday 8 a.m. this call. So at least 2 different calls every single week. Now, that does not mean that you need to join every single call. You can, absolutely. That's really cool. But we are not expecting everybody to be in every single call. And that's why everything is getting recorded. And you can always go to Meetup service, which is the last URL on the page, to see all of the advanced agendas advanced. So you can kind of figure out, do I want to be on that call? Is it cool demos? Do I want to be there? See what's actually happening or not? Or do I just catch the recording afterwards? Always an option. Now, for a lot of those calls, we do welcome community demos. Doesn't have to be rocket science. Quite often, we're always having this discussion, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not building kind of a cool, super deep dive things. No, that's not what we're expecting. For most of the time, the most super valuable demos are just getting started demos. How do we get started using Power Automate, where is it? What are those environments? What does it actually mean? I don't know. All of that information is relevant for the other people in the community as well. So please remember, don't overthink this. We do welcome community demos in many of these calls. Subscribe or fill in the form and we'll get you scheduled on there. Great way of getting you renewed if you're an MVP, and also if you're looking into getting MVP status, great way of getting that, because hey, these calls do actually attract a lot of attendance and also a lot of views afterwards in YouTube. So really cool option as well. We do have also a lot of material in learn.microsoft.com to get started on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. A lot of modules, 90 modules on Power Platform, my M365 development side, even more on Microsoft 365 in overall, and Power Platform has also more than 100 modules as well. We also have the sample gallery. We kind of touched this a bit already. AKMS community samples, one centralized location to find all of the samples from Microsoft and community. So really kind of a really cool location where you can go to find inspiration and ideas on what other people are building. Or if you run into a deadlock situation within your code and be like, oh my God, if only somebody would have actually implemented something similar at some point. Go to this location. It might be that somebody has, and try to find the relevant sample for you to get you unblocked. Now, when you find a sample, or you might be wondering on, hey, I would love to contribute as well. I have this cool sample, but how would I actually contribute? That is where our Sharing is Caring initiative helps you to get started. And David Warner, directly from our LA studios, is going to recap that one.
Yes, directly from LA, where yesterday we had snow in Los Angeles, everybody. How crazy is that? So we are going to talk a little bit about Sharing is Caring, which is what provides hands-on guidance in all areas of the community. So we've typically been covering how to contribute and use samples, but as promised, and we're teasing here, we're going to be coming out with some new samples, or new sessions, I should say, on how to actually use other areas of the technology that we use and love every single day. So there's a little teaser there, responsive Power Apps, component libraries for Power Apps, and even more is coming soon. These are safe space. They are live. That means they are not recorded, so that you can ask any and all questions. We can learn together, and it is going to be a contribution. So if you would like to actually get a badge, you can earn one by joining these calls. Keep an eye out on ak.ms/sharingiscaring for the schedule. We're working on that and getting it pumped out with all these new topics soon, and we're bringing in some new folks to help out. So excited to announce that soon as well. If you're on the call, some of you know who you are. But once you do contribute, we want to recognize you for the amazing work that you're doing, which is where our recognition program comes in. Alive and well for 2025. You've likely already been seeing some of those badges going out. We've got things like Prompt Pro and Snippet Sourcer, all the other ones. And oh, look at that, Powerful Devs. April and I just worked on a new badge yesterday, so this is the first teaser. This is the world premiere, if you will. That is going to be coming up here soon in their hackathon. So excited. Just need you to opt in, ak.ms/community/recognition, and we will keep track of all the amazing work that you're doing. And we thank you. We love you for all that you're doing. Vesa, back to you in the Finland studios.
Excellent. Thank you, LA. Helsinki taking over. Thank you for that one. Snow in LA. That's crazy. Now, a quick recap on all of the events which are happening pretty soon. So tomorrow, we have a special event for Microsoft SharePoint, which is happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, AKMS SharePoint event block or SharePoint event, just that one. You will find more details about that event. So there's going to be a lot of like demos. There's going to be an AMA around SharePoint agents and SharePoint portals and a lot of other stuff as well. Great opportunity of engaging with some of the people who are creating these capabilities for you in Microsoft SharePoint side. We'll then have the Powerful Devs conference and a hackathon coming in February, from February 12th to 28th, 2025, pretty soon, within 2 weeks or so. This is starting, and do register at AKMS Powerful Devs. That's the URL to follow up on that one if you're building something on Power Platform side. Now, right after that hackathon, and we actually officially will announce it tomorrow, but yay, you get a sneak teaser in here. A SharePoint hackathon where we actually have 4 different categories available where people can actually submit their designs. And this does not mean that you need to be a developer. So if you're building a beautiful looking design for SharePoint, beautiful looking Viva Connection dashboard using adaptive cards or the card designers, you can actually submit your design for this one as well. And if you are a developer, SharePoint Framework solutions can be submitted on this hackathon as well. More detail at AKMS SharePoint hackathon, and we'll have more details and blog posts on this one next week as well. Then on spring we have the Microsoft 365 Community Conference coming up on May 8th, 6th to 8th at Las Vegas MGM. Should be really, really cool show. We've seen a lot of submissions. I'm actually one of the content owners in one of the categories in here. There's a lot of cool stuff going to be shown on this conference, so don't miss out on that one, especially if you are on that side of the pond. Now, on this side of the pond, because I'm in Finland, Helsinki right now, we have the European Collaboration Summit combined with European AI and Cloud Summit and European BizApp Summit happening in Düsseldorf from 26th to 28th of May. Great option to actually engage with community. We're expecting to have more than 3,000 attendees on that one this year. Then TechCon 365 Seattle, Atlanta, and Dallas starting from June 23 to 27th, and Seattle then followed Atlanta and Dallas later this year. Great opportunities again engaging with community. See more at techcon365.com. We have also Power Platform Community Conference coming up on October 28th to 13th in Las Vegas. That's at the MGM as well. So it would be a great option to engage if you're on Power Platform side of the house. And then the year will be closed up by ESBC, again, European SharePoint and Cloud Power Platform, and I don't know, but it's a really long name for that conference nowadays. That's why we call it ESBC. But that's happening on 1st to 4th of December 2025 at Dublin. Really very great venue as well. On top of this, there's a lot of smaller events happening all around the world, which you can find actually from communitydays.org URL. And there's going to be stuff happening in Costa Rica, Florida, Cameroon, Nevada, Las Vegas, obviously. Germany and so on. So a lot of different locations all around the world. So please check out the option and meet other people within the community as well. Now, quick recap on the news from this week or last week. Not a massive amount of news, but definitely some new announcements and capabilities are getting promoted for Copilot side. And then obviously big part and big announcements from the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Microsoft Power Platform side is the release wave 1 plan. So that's a lot of details related on what's coming up on that one. It was released last week as well. And other than that, quite a lot of news on the Power Platform side. But all of the links for those are shared already within the chat. And then a quick recap on the Copilot prompts. We do welcome prompts. Every one of us, it'd be good that we learn how to create prompting for Copilot and AI and maybe GitHub AI, GitHub Copilot. And the prompt gallery is there to get you started and also getting inspiration, but also you can contribute. So if AKMS PMP prompt library is one way to actually share your prompts for other people in the community. And this week's prompt of the week is actually an interesting, so yes, this is not a really business powered prompt, but it really actually demonstrate nicely how the LLM can actually adapt based on your request. So you can actually make the LLM to play even tic-tac-toe with yourself based on the system prompt what we are providing. So really kind of pushing that boundary on what the LLMs and even Copilot can do visually within the UX side, as you can see in the GIF animation. Now, I guess that's it for now. Then before we go to the demos of today, let's do a quick crew photo for those who are willing to enable the camera. So let's actually enable the camera here. I will move in our together mode picture here. We do have 50 seats in a room. And then I will open up Camtasia. We are pretty pixel perfect today. And actually, it's doing an amazing job on. I can see somebody walking outside on the middle, and it's able to put him on the central. Exactly. Thank you. That's really very cool. 50 seats in the room. Let's see. Let's wait a few more seconds to fill in the room. A lot of familiar faces already smiling in here. Let's calculate 5, 4, 3, 2. Is it filled? No more people coming. Maybe I will start the recording then. Let's do 3, 2, 1. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining on the community. Thank you for being on this call. We'll share a GIF animation out of this again in the social media with all of you waving hands. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being part of this. Excellent. Brilliant, brilliant. Now, then let's go to the actual stars of the day right on the schedule. So we'll start with Carter on the Teams AI SDK and the latest features there, and then we move to John Miller, and then I will take the last demo of today on declarative agents. But Carter, I can see you starting the screen sharing. I can see the screen. I think we're good.
Audio. All right. Thank you, Vesa.
Audio is there. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Take it away.
All right. Everyone can hear me and see the screen. That's always a great start to the presentation. So today we're finishing up our series on building your custom engine agent using the Teams AI library. So if you haven't seen the other first two parts, you can go online for the YouTube channel, of course, to catch up. But this will be informative and a good way to round out the series. So for today, we'll do a quick recap what we were going over last week, and then we're going to go over some advanced custom engine features, including building an AutoGym agent team. And then we'll round it out with publishing your app and utilizing the developer portal. So it will give a nice whole picture of beginning to end for watching the series and going through the whole life cycle for building and publishing your app. So last week, we had the really exciting build of building a financial agent utilizing Microsoft's earnings call data, and we're able to go and perform retrieval augmentation generation based on that data and get some wonderful, insightful answers, as well as utilize citations and all the great features that you get from the Teams AI library while using the Visual Studio Code in the Teams toolkit. And shout out to John, who is part of that team, and they do a great job using those templates. And so that is a great way to get started with building your Teams AI library apps with using those templates from Teams toolkit. But so if we go and look at that build, we picked out our nice model GPT-4 Mini from Azure AI Studio, as well as, Azure AI Foundry. And then if you go through the agent checklist, we also updated the prompt, added our data, and did the feedback loop, and then did a shout out to single sign-on, which is great to use for Teams. But if you remember going back to our custom engine agent, when you go and look at all the capabilities you have for fully customizing that stack, you have the ability to not only just do the knowledge and the foundational models like we did last week, and then, or if you did the Copilot camp where you're doing tasks and actions, you also have the ability to have custom orchestration and planners to control the full stack. And this opens you up to have really some very interesting capabilities. And so if you want to dive deep into that next level of building your custom engine agent, then you can go check out the Teams AI library GitHub, where there are a lot of different samples to go and dive deep into all these different concepts, including custom planning, custom orchestration, as well as more samples on AI actions, chat with your data, authentication. And so today we're going to be exploring one of the samples on custom orchestration with AutoGen. So it brings up the exciting opportunity of building not just one agent, but you have a team of AI agents to then collaborate with each other, and specifically for this sample, be able to evaluate a specification document from someone on the team, and then go and coordinate between three agents, where you have a questioner agent that can coordinate with an answering agent, and then end up with the final decision evaluation from an evaluator agent. So it's all three agents, three separate prompts that you can then go and work to coordinate as a team to have more improved answers. And I think that's something you're going to be seeing more of as agents continuing to develop, where you develop a whole team, whether or not it's like this one for evaluating spec, maybe it's a marketing and outreach team to go and evaluate inbound leads, coordinate and with the lead itself, as well as evaluate and qualify that lead. So there are very interesting possibilities for you to go in and dive deeper. So we're going to go through and today use GPT-4o from actually straight from OpenAI instead of Azure AI Foundry, because the Teams AI library grants that flexibility there, as well as then instead of utilizing RAG straight from preloading our files, we're going to enable the Teams attachment downloader so that the user can just attach their spec to a message and then have the agent team evaluate it. So let's dive into it. All right. Now, granted, with the time, so I already have this sample up from the Teams AI library GitHub. And one quick thing to note, the samples here it can have slightly different setup from where you have with the Teams toolkit. So it's always good to start out with the README. And how you get started out with samples, you can go in the terminal, use git clone, the Teams AI from the GitHub with the Teams AI Git. And then all you have to do for a lot of these samples, once you have the initial environment set up with, for Poetry install, Poetry build, as well as having that virtual environment since we're in a Python sample. You just have to rename the sample.env file to .env and then enter in your OpenAI key, which I have already done in preparation here. So you don't want to share the key over over the call. But then for a lot of those samples, then it's good to go just right there. And so I think what we'll go here and then just look more for a quick learn on how some of this is set up with a custom planner. And so you can go and dive into some of the code. You can look here where you go to the bot.py, and then you can dive into some of the code where we have the storage, the app setup, as well as the adapter, and then where you have the Autogen planner that lays it out right here. And so instead of using the default planner that you might have with one of the Teams toolkit templates, where you're calling out from Autogen, and then this code right here for the Autogen planner lays out how you can have this set up. Again, this is more of an advanced setup. So this, going through some of these samples, you can dive in and see how to do it yourself in more detail, as well as refer to some of the other samples on actions and tasks to get more information there. So won't have time to dive through everything today, but I think it's a great way to learn and do more. And so for the actual agents themselves with the spec critique group, where you can go into speccritiquegroup.py, you can see how it's a little bit of how it's set up with these team of different agents. So it has directions for the spec critique group, where it's when they get a specification, it's identifying the audience, the problem, solution, value proposition, competition, and 7 different criteria to really look at to determine, is this a good spec or not? And then from 3 different agents, you have multiple different roles, where the first one is a questioner agent, where it's your role to ask questions of the product spec and get that answers from the answer agent to determine if the specification is meeting those requirements. And then below that, you have another setup for that answer agent, where a separate prompt where you can customize, and then saying the role is to answer the questions based on the product spec requirements and answer them clearly and concisely. And then the third one with the evaluator agent is to give the evaluation of the overall spec itself based on what it's seeing from the questioner and answer agent. So it's a 3-agent team working as a group to go and evaluate the spec, and then you yourself can customize each of these versions to have your own team of agents collaborating together. Now, once you've entered in your OpenAI key, then you can go ahead and just go ahead and run debug, as so long as you have your account, you're logged into your M365 account, and you have custom app loading enabled to get the full Teams experience. If you don't, you can also use the Teams test tool, which is great for debugging without that account. But we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and pull up. Already have the debugging started right here. And so we are in Teams channel right here. And then we can go and just mention our spec critique local agent and say evaluate the spec. And so now right here, I'll go and attach the file for the specification, and then I'll go send it. And what's really interesting right here with Teams Toolkit, when it's generated the answer right here, when you go back to the terminal, especially with these autogen agents, you can see in the terminal what it's doing behind the scenes. The questioner agent is who is the target audience, who is the audience, and then the answer with the chat manager going through providing the specification product details so I can help evaluating, sending clarification question for the user right here. So let's go back. So this is a live demo right here. And so we can go and see what the reply here. Could you please provide the product specification so I can evaluate the target audience for this agent? So we can see it showing the background. Now let's give it one more try actually, since spec critique local, evaluate the specification. Like I said, this is live. Sometimes. Okay. Let's give it one more try here to see if it pops up. Better? Okay. Now, going back and sending clarification questions. Okay. So don't want to mess around too much. Sorry about that, but I'll just go here. So if you, what generally would be happening when it is giving the full answer, it goes back and then can go through a full detailed instruction here behind the scenes layout, what's the questioner, the answer, and then go through each point of the specification document that we had. And so then it lays out for the spec several different specific problems for the audience, and then the answer agent is answering those questions from the questioner, and then it's laying out everything behind the scenes here. So normally, if you were to actually do this for a product, you may not include this full detailed information in the adaptive card, but this is showing you what's happening behind the scenes, and then go and the end result is it provides the spec evaluation where the clear identification of audience, and it says, okay, it has the target audience, identifies a clear problem statement, as well as the identification of the solution and the value proposition in the competition, and goes through all the aspects of the specification while giving actual feedback. And so it goes through coordinating with all the different agents, being able to give a detailed spec feedback based on your data. And of course, with live demos, occasionally things don't work out perfectly as planned, but the sample is this is what it will be showing, and I'll have to go through and see what was going on with the channel right there. But still a very exciting thing to dive into and go and try out yourself. And then just wanted to go on to the very next part really quickly. So after you've gone through and built the agent that you want, you can go through the provision, deploy, and publish lifecycle and TTK, where if you're logged into Azure, it sets up the environment for you to then go and publish and set up your resources in Azure. And once you've done that, then you can go through as well and go to the developer portal for where this is your home for managing and configuring and then helping publish all of your apps and agents to M365. So you go here. So remember last week we had the Teams AI Quick Start dev, which we were working on last week. So this now we have a good look of what this app looks like. We have a dashboard where you can have recent app validation. Very helpful if you're publishing to your org or just going through testing. You can go and evaluate your app right before going publishing or publishing to the store, even to get see what validation metrics you need to do and any warnings or errors. Because right off the bat, if we were just going from last week, there from that initial build in TTK, there were still some things that we needed to do. So there was the privacy URL and some other things in the manifest that weren't filled out. And the developer portal is a very good way to be able to do a check on what you missed. And so if we go to the manifest, which is right here, we can see we just have the default privacy URL and some of the other default websites that we have to edit to then really have an effective app. So when people go and users go and look at our app and check out the privacy content, it's linked to our actual sites. And then you can go, and once you finish up all the validations, you can continue to publish to your org or to the store, where then you would go and coordinate with your either Teams admin for your actual org to get their final sign off, or go to the partner center and go through that process. But going through the app validation ahead of time really helps with that. And the last part is there is a great dashboard and analytics that we don't quite have right here because the app hasn't been published, but there's great information that you can then go and finish up with the developer portal, where you get access to usage reports, host product splits, and usage capability, and in-context app definition. So it's a great spot to finish out before publishing, get information, continue to manage your app after you publish it. Highly encourage it. And with that, we have the two links to finish up with the Agent Lab, as well as a link to the Teams AI GitHub. So if you want to learn more, highly recommend starting out with the Copilot Camp Agent Lab, and then if you're diving deeper, go into the Teams AI GitHub. But yeah, that's what I have today. Thank you for watching the series, and I'll hand it back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you for that one. Really cool, Carter. Thank you for walking through that. Awesome stuff. Super excited. And good to see the Teams, the web portal as well. That's a dev portal. Really cool to see that live as well. Now, from a timing perspective, let's then jump on John directly. So we continue. We do have 3 demos today. So we'll transition between the demos pretty fast. And there's John. We can see the screen sharing. Audio.
Audio check.
Audio check. Everything is good. Take it away.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Carter. Really good session. I think I learned actually a few things there. I haven't built an agent yet myself with Teams AI Library, so super cool to see that. I'm going to pivot slightly to something a little different and talk about CI and CD with the Teams App CLI. So this continues the series that I've been doing over the past few months. So just a recap on where we've gotten to so far, as we've gone through an introduction just overall about Teams Toolkit, which are our dev tools for creating Teams apps, also Outlook extensions, really anything that the Unified App Manifest supports. And we have extensions in VS Code and VS, so we talked about those. You could catch up on the recordings for those things if you missed them. And I also talked about an introduction to the Teams App CLI, which is kind of a prerequisite to maybe some of this content. So if you missed that, or maybe some of this is unfamiliar, go back and check that out. And then last time I was here, we talked about deploying to Azure using Teams Toolkit. So today, well, we don't want to do that. Today, I'm going to just recap what CI/CD looks like. So let me go. We're not going to talk about Azure today. Talk about CI/CD. So the Teams App CLI has a bunch of commands that you could use in your pipelines to do something like CI/CD specifically for your Teams apps. And so what I've set up is just a quick demo to show you what that looks like in GitHub workflow. So a little prerequisite, if you're unfamiliar with GitHub workflows, I think that would be okay. You can follow along, and then you could go dive into the docs, or you could also check out the documentation we have, which I'll share a link here in a second, for setting this up in GitHub or Azure DevOps. So this is what I've done for CI. So this is my workflow file in my project, and I will share a link to the repo for this later. You can take a look at it yourself. So in my CI file, what I wanted to do for this project I have is to use the Teams App CLI to run some validation tests on my manifest. So when I check in my app package and I have my manifest here, one of the things that the toolkit can do is just run a validation on this for you. And we also are adding some features so that way you can run the validation logic that Teams developer portal does. So this is things like making sure that your app is not going to have any breaking rules that would prevent it from being published. And so right now you can do that locally with the CLI, but it's a little trickier to do it in CI due to authenticating with your M365 account. So those are features that we're working on. So right now we can do manifest schema checks. And so that's what I've added here. So you can see IntelliSense get out, or these dialogues get out of my way. Just setting up the GitHub action. I have a couple of variables that are needed. These are the things that are in the app manifest, which are part of the toolkit. So that's stuff like this. That way, this will break a schema, which you can see here. That's what VS Code is complaining about. So we need to fill those things in first and install the CLI. And here I am running the Teams app validate command. And that's really simple. And then I have it set up here for a CD. So I can do some deployment things. And I have it set up here to be dependent on my CI being completed. So this is just special workflow syntax for GitHub. So when my CI thing completes, and not just completes, but I kind of also only want my CD to run when it's successful. So I've added this check on my job here to make sure that when the CI is successful, then do this deployment. Otherwise, if I fail some validation checks or something or whatever else I add into CI, I don't really want to deploy this stuff. So I'm going to just do it when it's successful. Same kind of thing with setting up the environment variables here. And we got to set up node, install this CLI again. And the CLI, I'll put a link in chat here in case you're unfamiliar. The Teams app CLI is an NPM package, so I'll put a link in the chat. You can install it from there. And here we're using the Teams app CLI to authenticate with Azure via a service principal. So I have set up an identity or an Azure, or what is it? Entra app is what it's called now. So Entra app, and I've set all that up, and I'm using GitHub secrets for these things to keep things simple. So that's this syntax here. So I've added these on my repo. I'll show you that in a second. And you can do interactive false here so that it doesn't prompt web browser or anything like that because we're in a headless environment. And what that's going to do is just let me authenticate with my Azure account so that way I can run the commands for Teams app, which is the next one is to deploy. So Teams app deploy is going to go through my deploy steps. In this case, in my Teams app YAML, I have deployed all these things to happen during deploy. So one of them being an Azure zip deploy. That's why I need my Azure account authenticated there. So I'm going to deploy and, I closed it. And then what's the other thing I'm going to do? Package my app. So this is going to just create the zip package and then use that zip package that I can upload to the platform as an artifact. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Let me go over to the repo and I'll share a link with this. This is the repo for a project I made for Build last year. Just made it easy for me to add CI/CD to this. So let me share a link to this so you can check it out if you want. I'll put it in the chat. So here's those, once I push those files, GitHub automatically picks these things up. Here's the CI run. So you can see I did a push a little while ago just to make sure things were going to be smooth for you. But I will let you know that I had many failed attempts before this, and I hid those so that way you wouldn't laugh at me because I kept making mistakes in the JSON because I'm still learning. But we can take a look at this, and you can look through the CI step and see here's all the different steps that I just explained, and we can see the validation step, and Teams Toolkit said everything's good. Once the CI is complete, the CI or the CD step will run. So we can go in here, we can look at build, we can go through all these are all the different steps expressed in the YAML file, and everything was good with that as well. So I deployed to Azure, and then if I go back one, and down here I have this artifact. This is my app package. So this is the zip file that I can then use to give to my admin or whatever your internal process is to get your app in your tenant. Or you could take this to Teams developer portal and publish it. There's kind of different ways depending on whether you're running things inside of your tenant or whether you're shipping them across all tenants. So there's kind of different process there. But at the end of the day, you really just need the app package for these things. So there's my artifact, and that's pretty much all that's needed to do CI and CD. If you want to follow along and do this for yourself, I'll put the docs in here. We have these workflow files and all the steps to set up either secret-based authentication or certificate-based authentication with the Teams App CLI. You can add them to an existing pipeline or workflow, and then you can kind of pick and choose what steps you want. But like, for example, you may not do Teams App deploy if you already have your own deploy scripts, and instead you might want to just do things like package or validate with the Teams App CLI. So I think that is it, and I'll be a little ahead of schedule to give the next person some more time. So let me know if you have any questions about this, and if you folks have any other topics you want to see around Teams Toolkit or app development. I think I had a bunch of question marks on my slides for what's next, so I have some ideas. So I will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Sounds good. Thank you, John, on that one. Really, really cool to have that one covered step by step as well. So let's move on the third demo because we are right on the schedule. We can then ease up and close up the call on the hour as well, or so it seems. So the first demo will be presented by me. So I'm going to share my screen. And in this demo, we're going to talk about building your first declarative agent for Microsoft 365 Copilot. We're going to kind of a positioning and test out a few things and making sure that everything is working properly with the Copilots, and I'm going to do a few live demos as well. But before we go actually there, I wanted to kind of talk about bit about the positioning of all of this. So of course, the Microsoft 365 is the overarching Copilot. Microsoft 365 Copilot is overarching Copilot across all of the different capabilities, and you can actually build extensibility for Microsoft 365 Copilot using multiple different ways. And you can actually surface your extensibility in multiple different locations, in multiple different options within Microsoft 365 as well. Now, when we talk about building agents in Microsoft 365, we do have multiple different options of doing that. We do have the no-code options, which is technically the SharePoint agent options, or using the agent builder. Both of them are kind of a no-code, low-code options to do that. You could argue that, well, it's not code, but then again, you're kind of coding using natural language. So it comes back on what is coding, is giving instructions and examples and things in a natural language. Is it coding or not? Debatable. But Agent Builder and SharePoint Agents are basically the easiest ways to get started. Both of them, SharePoint Agents, we have been covering in community calls. We'll talk about Copilot Studio and Agent Builders in community calls, definitely more in the future. And then today, we're going to actually use the Pro-Code option of doing that. So I'm going to explain why that matters and why would you do that as part of the demos as well. Because again, the spectrum is broad. You can do all of these things in multiple different ways, but let's talk about today about the Pro-Code option. So we're going to use Teams Toolkit in this particular scenario. So we're going to build a declarative agent today. Technically, if we think about Pro-Code options of creating Copilot agents, we traditionally divide this in two main sections. Declarative agents, which are grounded based on the information, for example, in the Microsoft 365. You can associate to the SharePoint and OneDrive data. You can associate actions for it. You can actually do integrations of even APIs directly on declarative agents. You can do images, graphics, all of that already in there. But you're kind of using the engine which Microsoft is providing. So declarative agents means that you are defining behavioral things using JSONs and natural language. If you really want to go to the board on, well, I don't like how Copilot is actually doing things. I want to actually own the business logic that I want to choose which LLM large language model I'm using behind the scenes. You can still do that. And that's the custom engine agent flow where you actually then own the whole thing. And that's something where Teams AI SDK, which we went through in some of the community calls on today, definitely comes to as one of the options to take advantage. Now, in this demo, we kind of focus a bit more on declarative agents and what it actually means. But the key point here is to understand that the user experience is Microsoft 365. So we're basically surfacing stuff in Microsoft 365 when we're using declarative agents. We're telling the Microsoft 365 Copilot to behave certain ways. That's really the definition of declarative agents. Orchestrator foundational models are provided by Microsoft 365. You don't actually control them as a developer or as a user who's creating these declarative agents. But what you do control is the instructions and grounding. So you're basically able to define the behavioral instructions. You'll be able to define how would the agent behave, or this instance of an agent will behave. The grounding means that you're able to associate the knowledge and behavior, for example, files within a SharePoint site. So you're able to create a declarative agent and say, hey, here's the SharePoint site where our HR information is being stored. Associate all of your knowledge, not just on the wild internet information, but also on this particular files, which are on this particular document folder. And that will basically do the rack founding or grounding directly on data in there. And then you're able to do actions and capabilities. For example, you're able to associate the declarative agent even to a custom API if needed. You can do graphics, you can do code interpreter. I can't pronounce that term, but anyway, you can do additional things as well for declarative agents, but you don't have a ownership on all of the things. You're basically just adjusting the behavior, how the Microsoft 365 Copilot is behaving. So let's actually have a demo on this one. So let's jump on a demo, spend a few times in Copilot, and we're going to create a custom declarative Copilot in Teams Toolkit as well, so we kind of understand how this works. So let me jump into the Copilot side. First of all, one of the questions might come up on why do I actually need agents? We actually get this question quite often, which is, why isn't Copilot already good enough? Why do I need to create specific agents? Well, the specific agents are technically configured for a functionality. So if you think about the Copilot here, let me zoom in one more step forward. I can actually tell this Copilot to start behaving in certain ways. So I could actually do something like the tic-tac-toe was an example of within today's or this week's prompt. So I can pasting the tic-tac-toe prompt in here, which starts actually the Copilot then behave based on the system prompt. Actually, let me go here and let's do this one more time. There we go. I'm basically telling the Copilot that, hey, we kind of work as a tic-tac-toe, and we kind of then the Copilot starts behaving like a game of tic-tac-toe because I'm telling that to do that, and these are the rules, and this is how it should be behaving, who's winning, what does it actually mean, and all of that stuff. So I'm giving a prompt to define its behavior. And now I can actually, for example, say, start playing the game of tic-tac-toe with LLM, and then it starts playing against me. So that's now the latest rendering. Let's put it in 3. So we're kind of playing against the LLMs. And if you think about this from a, let's say, classical development perspective, this is now the key point to understand as we're moving into the age of AI and LLMs. Writing something like this as a chatbot engine before AI and LLMs was an option for us is incredibly hard. So I can actually have a discussions here. I can basically say different ways of me indicating my intent, saying place X on the position, things I'll choose position 2. Previously, the logistics of me trying to figure out the user intent based on just a random text, what the user is writing or saying in audio, would have been really, really hard. As we have the LLM and AI helping us to do that, it doesn't really matter if we even do typos here at position on. It's able to actually detect my intent. So it's able to understand that, oh, you actually needed position 6, so therefore I will put it in position 6. Even that kind of a logistics on resolving that typo in the old way of doing things would have been incredibly difficult. So if you've written any code of if then go to in previous years and previous times, you can start trying to figure out on how difficult would it have been actually resolving that intent directly from that thing, and fixing typos. It's just magical what you can do here. By the way, let's actually win the game. So let's put it in 7. Hopefully we can win the game. I think we want it just to update the port. You should actually understand that I'm winning. That's already 3 in a row. Okay, fine. I'll put it in a 4 still. And I guess it's telling me that I'm winning the game. Now, it actually did realize that I win the game from that line. So that's actually cool. So the LLM actually realized that, yeah, you actually won the game. Thank you for that. Now, again, the implementation, how we program and do things with LLMs and AI and agent is completely different as it was previously. Now, as part of the Copilot camp, there's a great example, an exercise, which is about geolocator game. So this is a geolocator game, which is already deployed in here. It's a great example of a simple agent. In this case, it's a game. And we do understand that obviously agents are much more business power driven, but it actually demonstrates again the power of the agents and LLMs. Geolocator game again is part of the Copilot camp. There's an example how to do this. We're going to walk through the process today as well, just to demonstrate how this can be done really fast in Teams Toolkit. But key point here to understand is that I can actually create the geolocator game also just into Copilot chat. So what I mean with that one is that if I copy the chat and the prompt which we used for the geolocator game, again, in the same way as we did for the tic-tac-toe, I can tell the Copilot to start behaving a certain way. Like in this case, it's basically now giving me, starting to give me prompts on, hey, let's play a geolocator game. Why? Well, because that was the prompt what I provided in here. Now, why would I actually create this as an agent? Well, because I want to have a dedicated experience. So from an end user perspective, first of all, I can actually give it as an instance, which the user can easily find. It could be learning coach, it could be writing coach. The user doesn't need to copy a system prompt. They don't have to copy any of the behavior and skills or connections or API connections behind of the scenes or the grounding information data. That's actually already there in as the configuration for the agent. So rather than asking the end user to copy paste the big prompt and explaining how it will start behaving, let's go to the geolocator game. Let's start actually clicking a button. I can start the game, and the geolocator game actually starts asking questions. Okay, you will give me some clues, and I will need to guess which name it is. This is organic continent Europe, known for its temperate maritime climate. Let's say Amsterdam. And nice try. It's a famous landmark, Eiffel Tower. I think everybody knows where Eiffel Tower is, or most of us know. Never assume that everybody knows that. It is Paris, and yes, we got some points on that one. And now I guessed in 2 clues, and I earned 8 points because the rules which I gave in the system prompt, how it should be behaving, it's calculating the points for me. What's actually kind of interesting here, if I let's play again, and if you actually again start thinking, how would I implement this without LLMs to understand the user behavior, the intent, and let's play again means that there's a new game starting. The city is located in Asia, known for a humid subtropical climate. I'm going to guess Bangkok. Just guessing. It's a big city. Nice try. Home of famous landmark Tokyo Tower, which is inspired by Eiffel Tower. That's a bit giving us away that maybe it's Tokyo. Yes, it's a landmark in Tokyo, but yes, so I got it true. Now, I can also do something like what's the point score? And it's giving me then the point score of 16, and you scored 8 points each of the 2 rounds. Now, what's interesting with LLMs and the AI is that I can start debating with it, and I can say, I guess the first question on first try, my point should be then 18. Because it's configured to help me, it's going to actually help me to fix that. So it's going to actually now recalculate. No. I apologize for my mistake. You are correct. You guessed the first city, Paris, on second try. No, it's not actually answering me the right thing. Now I'm kind of having an interesting debate on on the LLM. It's now contradicting itself. You guessed the first city. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to have a debate with the LLM right now. But anyway, it's an interesting how the LLM and AI can have, you can have a discussion and it's able to understand again the discussion with you. Now, how would we actually build all of this stuff? Super easy, incredibly easy. So let me actually go here and let me start a Visual Studio Code. We do have 6 minutes before we need to close the call. That's more than enough to do even live debugging on all of this stuff. So what we're going to do is build a declarative agent. The cool thing about the Teams toolkit also is that it actually gives us the option of double check, for example, my environment and double check my Copilot license, all of that stuff. There are a few different options nowadays on the Copilot starting this development that we can actually use the pay on demand option as well. However, that will come pretty expensive pretty fast if you're doing development in Copilot when you start asking questions and playing around with AI. So the option and a license option is definitely the best way to go. Now, let's actually create a declarative agent. Let's actually create a declarative agent. Let me select the declarative agent from the top. Let me move that away. Let me go actually one step back. I'm basically adding a new project, and then I'm saying declarative agent as the option. So I'm able to start from there. There are a few different other options of Vesa Teams Toolkit to get started on building other stuff as well. So let's choose declarative agent option. We're going to say no action in this case because we want to keep it simple, but there are other things which you can include in declarative agents as well. So no action in this case, and let's put it in default folder. It doesn't really matter. Let's give it a name, community call demo declarative agent, DA. Cool. That's creating us the solution, and we're pretty much ready to go to start even testing within our environment. The way this works and why it actually is so incredibly easy is that the Teams Toolkit makes it really, really easy. So first of all, I'm already connected to my development environment, which is in this case is to Contoso Ira on Microsoft.com. So I'm already connected there. The Teams Toolkit remembers that. In my case, I'm not connected in Azure, but this connection gives me already the option to test around with declarative agents. I can start testing things. Now, how would I actually implement the agent? That's pretty easy as well. So if I go here and extend the app package, we can find the manifest, and this is technically the Microsoft Teams schema manifest. You can see it from here. But now, as we build declarative agents, we do have a new option available in here, which is the Copilot agents, which is referring to declarative agents JSON. And that's basically where we are defining our declarative agent. How does it actually work? How does it behave? And all of that stuff. So the details on that one. And in our case, the key point here is that it's actually pointing to the instructions txt. Now, we can actually modify this behavior a bit. And we can actually add the instructions on declarative agents in here if needed. We don't have to, but that's definitely an option. We're not going to do that today because we only have a limited set of time, but I want to actually show how we can get this one moving with the Teams Toolkit, creating a first declarative agent. That was the objective. Now, I will go to the instructions. I will copy these from another file, but the same thing what I copied directly to the Copilot chat to make it work like a game, I'm actually copying that directly to the agent instruction. And if we quickly look on here, we can actually see that it's a game hosting for geolocation game. We give instructions on the points. We also say, you guessed the city, how it should be working. The offer, second clue would be offering a hint about city's landmarks or natural features. That's why it says Tokyo Tower, and it was pretty obvious that the example was Tokyo. Now, that's it. I'm going to save declarative agents. We're not going to do anything in here. This is just a demo, and I will go to the Teams Toolkit, and I will keep provision. And that's when the magic actually happens, how incredibly easy it is to get started. So let me go in here. Let's go output panel. Teams Toolkit actually validates things, make sure that everything is working properly. The files, everything is okay. Behind the scenes, it will give me nice level of instructions and descriptions and error descriptions as needed. Then it will deploy this from behalf of me directly to my tenant, the tenant which I'm already connected, which is the Contoso Iro. So I can actually start doing testing. I can do debugging as well if needed on that side. But if I now go here, and we can actually, you maybe saw it quickly jumped in here live as I switch on the screen. We can actually see the community called demo DA already available. And here's our community demo DA. And now if I say start start that game, I'm actually able to start the game of having the geolocation in place. Now, in our case, we didn't include any starting dialogues or starting prompts like we have done with a official example directly following up on the Copilot camp. But it's actually really, really cool that you're able to start creating this super fast and testing them directly within the Copilot, just with a click of a button. You're able to do debugging, you're able to do things and start playing with the game. Cultural heritage has a maritime, I'm going to say London. Da-da-da. Yes, and that was magical. I got it in the first try. Anyway, super easy to do. And again, there's a lot of different options what we can actually extend here. There's a lot of documentation available, how to do more with declarative agents, what are the options, what are the facts, FAQs, write instructions, efficient instructions is a great guidance as well. So how would you define the behavior directly within the actions? So you're able to define a different behavior than just within the Copilot chat, but in the agent what you are implementing. API blockings available as well, which is an interesting option. And then we do have awesome examples available. Also, even out of the box, Microsoft provided, for example, idea coach or writer coach or career coach options, and these are open source and they're actually available within our within a GitHub. So you can have a look on, for example, what are the instructions for that particular file? That's all available in the app package, for example, for that one on instruction.txt, and how did that particular agent was actually defined, and what are the behaviors what we provided to make it behave in a certain way. And again, that's basically these things are open source, which are available from the store as well. But that's quick intro on that one. From a time perspective, we didn't want to spend too much time there. We will do more advanced stuff on declarative agents and other agents definitely during the spring 2025. Quick set of resources on the Copilot extensibility. Copilot Camp, definitely #1 resource to get started on things. It was already called out in the community chat, called chat, as well as a great resource to get started and understanding the basics on how do we implement all of this stuff. A lot of other options available for you as well. But that's it for this demo. Cool. That was then the 3 demos of today. Thank you, Carter. Thank you, John. And thank you, me. We are a bit over time. I do apologize on that one. But we didn't want to rush too much. This always run out of time, especially I tend to talk too much. That's a bad habit of mine. Next Tuesday, we do have 2 demos. So we most likely have a bit more time on going through a bit different options and scenarios as well. We'll have Mark Windle talking about the SharePoint embedded. That's going to be a live demo on something. I don't have the demo title yet, but it's latest update as a general title for now. And then Paolo Pialorsi is going to talking about getting started with Copilot Studio Agent Builder. So what does that mean versus SharePoint agents and declarative agents, and what does that provide and what are the limitations? And Paolo is going to walk through that on next Tuesday and 4th of February. But in the meanwhile, please do take advantage of different assets which you have available from a community side. One of them is the Discord server, where we do have more than 2,400 members. It's cool to see how more and more people are finding this location to engage with other people in the community. We are also looking into feedback and ideas on what you would like to see within these calls. Please fill in AKMS community calls feedback, super important for us. And like you maybe know, the recording will be available within 24 hours at Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel at AKMS Community YouTube. Subscribe today, you will get notified when the call is available, and follow us on social media. It really is a way to stay up to date on what's also happening. All available calls at AKMS Community Calls, and again, February 4th is the next community call. But that's it for now. Thank you everybody for joining today. 3 awesome demos. Hopefully you enjoyed all of them, and we'll be back with the next community call, actually even on this week. But next Tuesday call, next Tuesday. Always Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.